We deconstruct the terrifying financial illiteracy that causes Indian compensation teams to hemorrhage elite talent to the Gulf. I have exactly three critical questions for you to answer in the comments below. Number one, are you currently comparing an Indian annual cost to the company CTC directly to a Dubai monthly AED cash offer? Completely blind to the fact that you are comparing two entirely different financial asset classes. Number two, do you understand the lethal mathematical trap of the UAE allowance split, where a massive monthly salary actually masks a structurally hollow, non existent long term wealth payout? Number three, with India enforces the strict 50% wage rule under 2025 labor codes, do you possess the architectural blueprint to defend your domestic talent against a tax free Gulf offers using the compounding velocity of a deferred wealth? Let me know your answer. My intro. I'm Dr. HR. I approach the global labor and capital market not with emotional comforting advice but as a cold, structural, algorithmic system. I hold a PhD in human resources, a master's from prestigious Tata Institute of Social Sciences TISS in Mumbai, and a bachelor's in computer engineering. Operating on the ground here in Dubai since 2010, consulting for tier 1 corporate entities, sovereign wealth funds, and apex tech founders across the Middle East and India, I monitor exactly how global talent is valued, commoditized, and legally structured. The market does not reward you for reading the headline numbers. It rewards absolute, uncompromising structural analysis. Indian companies are losing elite talent to the Gulf, hiring it back at a massive premium, and increasingly setting up corporate entities in free zones like DIFC. Yet, most compensations and benefit teams still compare an AED package to an INR CTC like it's apple to apple. It isn't. It is a mathematical illusion. Both India and the United Arab Emirates are currently in the middle of a massive synchronized regulatory reset regarding the fundamental definition of wages and the funding of deferred benefits. If you do not understand both jurisdictions, your HR department is flying blind and your balance sheet is bleeding. Before I completely dismantle the illusion of the 40% raise, expose the exact mechanics of the UAE savings scheme versus India's 2025 labor codes, and give you the precise architectural playbook to counter-offer Gulf poachers, hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell. I post daily videos showing you exactly how to navigate the global labor and capital market using cold, hard engineering logic. You do not want to miss these execution protocols. Stop reading the monthly gross. Start auditing the architecture. Grab a notebook. It is time to decode the Gulf offer. Phase 1. The shared regulatory collision, the 2025-2026 reset. We must first diagnose the exact macroeconomic and legal collision occurring across the India GCC corridor. Both nations are violently attacking the exact same structural problems, the manipulation of the wage definition to avoid long-term corporate liabilities. Let us deconstruct the Indian reset. On 21st November 2025, India executed a once-in-a-generation consolidation of 29 archaic central labor laws into 4 streamlined labor codes. The single change that fundamentally shattered traditional corporate compensation architecture was standardized 50% wage rule. For Indian comp teams operated a specific cynical engineering exercise: low basic, high allowances. They pushed the basic salary down to 20% to reduce the company's employee provident fund, EPF, matching contributions and statutory gratuity liabilities. The 2025 codes closed this gap permanently. Basics and DNS allowances component must now mathematically comprises at least 50% of total remuneration. A massive inflation in gratuity accruals, and unless the employer funds the difference, a lower monthly take-home for employees at forced saving increases. Now, look at the UAE transition. The UAE private sector is governed by Federal Decree Law number 33 of 2021. The classic end-of-service benefit, the gratuity, was an unfunded, defined benefit lump sum, 21 days of basic salary per year for first 5 years, capped at 2 years basic. This was a ticking time bomb on the corporate balance sheet, growing retroactively with a single salary promotion. To neutralize this, UAE activated Cabinet Resolution of 96 of 2023, initiating the voluntary end-of-service savings schemes. Instead of carrying an unfunded promise, employers now transfer a fixed monthly contribution, 5.83% or 8.33% of basic salary, into a highly regulated independent investment fund. Both systems are executing the exact same macroeconomic principle: define wages cleanly and fund the deferred benefit transparently. India is forcing an honest, higher wage base. The UAE is moving the deferred benefit off the employer's book and into a regulated capital market. Phase 2: decoding the Gulf headline trap, the illusion of the raise. This brings us to the most dangerous interaction in your HR department. A top-tier engineer drops a Dubai offer letter on your desk. It states a clean monthly figure of AED 25,000 dirhams. They convert that to Indian rupee, multiply by 12, and claim they are getting a 100% raise over their current INR 30 lakh CTAC. And you have to multiply by 26 because the rates are increasing. This calculation is entirely fraudulent. Comparing a Gulf monthly cash figure to an annual CTC is an operational failure. An Indian CTC is stuffed with employer's contribution, social security matching, and notional variable. A Gulf offer is raw, localized. To evaluate the true biological value of an offer, you must normalize both packages to a single uncompromising metric: annual net current cash plus verifiable benefit in kind plus vested deferred wealth. You must manipulate 4 distinct architectural levers. 1. The income tax void. The UAE has 0% personal income tax on salary. Gross is effectively net for the employee. In India, a senior operator loses 30% to 39% of their peak packet to the state. This tax delta alone often explains the entire apparent raise. 2. The basic versus the allowance split. Because UAE gratuity and saving schemes contributions are calculated exclusively on basic salary, the split is everything. A predatory Gulf employer will offer AED 30,000, but structurally it's a 30% basic and 70% allowances. The employee feels rich today, but they are building a structurally hollow, emaciated, end-of-service wealth asset. Indian HR team used to low basic equal good must invert their psychology here. 3. The mandatory cover mode. The high-end Gulf offer includes employers-provided medical insurance mandatory in major emirates, annual repatriation flights, and schooling allowances for expat children. These are massive hard cash offsets. If you ignore these, your comparison is broken. 4. The forced saving differential. India forces wealth accumulation through EPAs. In Gulf has no statutory monthly retirement deduction from their salary. Therefore, the Gulf package delivers extreme current liquidity, but zero automatic long-term wealth building outside the employer's basic gratuity. Phase 3. The spatial friction coefficient, a live calculation. We must strip away the theoretical fluff and run a brutal real-world mathematical execution. Imagine a mid-senior software engineer director in Hyderabad earning a CTC of INR 45 lakh. Under the 50% rule, the basic in INR is 22 lakhs 50,000. After aggressive income tax bracket, mandatory employee EPF deductions, and professional tax, their true net of tax monthly cash hitting their bank account is approximately 2,36,000 rupees. They receive an offer from a scaling tech venture in Dubai for 22,000 dirhams per month. The candidate converts it roughly to an INR, say like 5 lakh to 8 lakhs. They celebrate a 111% rate. Now we map the spatial friction coefficient for a married professional with 1 child. High inflation housing. A standard 2-bedroom apartment in a premium Dubai corridor roughly cost AED 110,000 annually. That is AED 9,166 deducted from their monthly cash. Expatriate schooling. A premium international primary schooling costs around 40,000 dirhams per annum, or 3,333 a month. Utility and logistics. Water, electricity, cooling fee, and standard transport consumes are another 4,500. Let us calculate the true net discretionary yield. AED 22,000 minus housing 9,166 plus schooling 333 plus utility 4,500. AED 5,001 there. Convert that remaining AED 5,001 back dirham to INR. It's equally around 1,13,500 of true discretionary saving potential per month. Now go back to their reality. If their localized living cost in India consumes 80,000 rupee a month, their Indian discretionary saving potential is 1,56,000 rupee per month. The 111% raise was a mathematical mirage. Once you factor in the high friction spatial expenses of the UAE market and lack of corporate schooling support, moving to Dubai at 22,000 represent a massive net reduction in biological discretionary wealth for this specific family unit. Phase 4, the deferred wealth architecture, EPF versus the saving scheme. If the current cash is an illusion, we must look at the intellectual spine of a total reward, the deferred benefit layer. In India, the 2025 Labour Code created an automated wealth shield because the basic salary threshold was forced to 50% of the base of both EPF and statutory gratuity, expanded permanently. You have 12% employer matching and 12% employee deduction compounding continuously at sovereign back rate. India forces the employee to become wealthy over time. In the UAE, the traditional gratuity model is an unfunded promise. If the company goes bankrupt, the expatriate's end of service wealth vanishes into the liquidation court. This is why the apex employers in the GCC are transitioning to the end of service savings schemes. This is defined contribution model. The employer pays a fixed monthly contribution which is 5.83% or 8.33% depending on tenure into a highly regulated portable investment linked fund. When a candidate leaves your Indian firm for the Gulf, you must diagnose their deferred layer. If their new Dubai employer operates on the traditional unfunded gratuity model with a depressed 30% basic salary, the candidate is walking into a massive wealth deficit. They are trading the secure, hyper-compounding reality of an Indian EPF for a high-risk, unfunded Gulf promise. Phase 5, the cross-border playbook, retention, setup, repatriation. We have diagnosed the shared reform moment, mapped the headline trap, calculated the spatial friction, and decoded the deferred wealth architecture. The final phase is your immediate operational playbook. How do you deploy this data on Monday morning? Scenario 1, the Gulf counteroffer retention. When your elite talent resign for Dubai, do not attempt to compete on headline cash. You will lose to the 0% tax rate. Instead, you execute an analytical reset. You build the true net versus net comparison for the employee transparently. You map their Dubai housing and schooling cost. You pivot the conversation away from current liquidity and lead your counteroffer with the compounding velocity of a deferred wealth. You show them exactly how their Indian EPF and gratuity compound over 10 years versus the manual saving discipline required in the UAE. Scenario 2. Setting up a GCC entity if your Indian firm is opening an office in the DIFC or Abu Dhabi. Do not port your Indian compensation logic. It is actively harmful. You must decide your basic allowance ratio deliberately. Do not use low basic habits, maintain a competitive 50-50% split. You must decide early to opt into the new UAE savings schemes to isolate your balance sheet liability, and you must budget explicitly for the cultural norm benefit. Mandatory medical cover, visa provisioning, and the flight allowances that the top tier GCC candidates expect. Scenario 3. Repatriating returning talent. When an Indian expat returns home after 10 years in the Gulf, they are psychologically anchored to a tax-free cash. They will be hostile to Indian tax bracket. You must reset their expectations early using net of tax math. Map their liquidated Gulf gratuity pot against their re-entry into a highly compounded EPF system. Use a total rewards framing. Emphasize high upside ESOP, career trajectory in a secure growth market, and proximity to the family. Rather than apologizing for a headline, take-home drop. Phase 6. Sovereign compensation strategist. Look closely at how your HR department evaluates cross-border talent movement today. Are they blindly accepting the currency conversion rate? Are they treating an annual CTC like a monthly gross? If so, your compensation architecture is broken. You are overpaying for returning talent and you are failing to defend your current talent against predatory Gulf offer. The 2025-2026 global market does not allow for amateur comparisons. The government of India and the UAE have rewritten the fundamental definition of what counts as a wage. You must elevate your human resources department from a payroll administration desk to an elite cadre of structural economists. Stop comparing the headline, deconstruct the allowances split, audit the deferred wealth funding, deploy the friction math, and command the absolute leverage required to win the global war for elite human capital. Process the data, execute the strategy, and I will see you at the top.